Okay, thank you. Welcome to the Moderators meeting for 2013. I'd like to thank everybody for attending tonight. I know it's a busy time of the year and greatly appreciate your presence. I'd also particularly like to thank the Warrant Committee for all the hard work you've done this year. It's always difficult meeting a budget, and we greatly appreciate your wisdom and your guidance. Thank you. Tonight we're going to review the procedure and the articles for town meeting. There will be no changes from prior years. We'll be following the same format that Pamela Ellsworth adopted during her term, and actually she based her conduct of the meeting on Paul Horwitz, who was her predecessor, and I don't intend to make any changes to follow the same process, which means that we'll be following a few basic rules with respect to presentations. As Pam and Paul had done in the past, I would ask that you limit your presentations to 10 minutes. And during some of the articles that we're discussing, we can talk a little bit more about the scope of the article in terms of what discussion we think is relevant and what we think is not relevant. If anybody has a slide, it's very important that they be provided to Barry Clough, the town clerk, or a presentation that's going to be in PowerPoint, that it be provided to Barry ahead of time so that we can make sure that it's properly loaded into our system. We are going to probably adhere very strictly to the time limits because I am worried that we're going to end up spilling over into a second night. So David Havlin is my assistant town moderator. Paul White is also going to be an assistant town moderator. He's not able to come tonight. He had a meeting with the state legislature. But Paul will be in the cafeteria to deal with any spillover crowd that we might have, and I expect that we will. David Havlin will be conducting the discussion of Article 12. I have a conflict of interest as an abutter, and therefore I will not be able to preside over that article. The names of persons seconding, will need, Barbara, you to provide us with who will be seconding your article.
I can do that. Okay,
so when you have a chance, if you could do that. And Barry, are there any other items, preliminary items that you want to deal with before we?
Just anybody that's making a presentation, get it to me, as you said. Any amendments to any articles have to be in writing to you. That's what we need. So, just so they know that. And that's what you're voting on, is what's in the writing.
Right. And if anybody does have an amendment, it would be very helpful to us if you could give it to us ahead of time. Because we would like to have town council review it to make sure that it complies with the requisite format. Last year we had an amendment to an article that was presented from the floor, and we had to take time out during the meeting for Bill to review it because it was a funding article, a borrowing article, that in order for bond counsel to be able to give the opinion, it had to meet certain requirements for the format. So if we could expedite that process, if anybody is going to be making an amendment, if you could send it to us ahead of time so that we can help you get it into the proper format, that would really help us a lot and help us have an expeditiously conducted town meeting.
And Mr. Moderator, if I may,
yes,
to clarify, if that is the case, if that would send that amendment to Greer Pugach. At the moment, I don't believe there are any anticipated. I think we've lined everything up, but if there are, they should go to Greer. The sooner the better.
Okay. And before we start the articles, let me just, you've met David Havlin, Dave Rames, of course, everybody knows. Bill Leahy, also everyone knows. And I'm Jim Rapetti, obviously. So if you have any questions or comments as we're proceeding now through the articles, would greatly appreciate them and encourage you to raise your hand and let me know what your thoughts are. We'll have the traditional opening that Pam and Paul used in the past, and then I'll call on you, Andy, to make a few comments on behalf of the Warrant Committee. And again, if you could limit your comments to 10 minutes, that would be great. And you did a great job at the Warrant Committee hearing, so I expect that will not be a problem at all. After Andy will make a presentation on behalf of the Warrant Committee, then I'll call on Jim Dolly, Chair of the Board of Selectmen, to also make some remarks on behalf of the Board of Selectmen. And Jim, do you have any idea of approximately how long you'll need for that? Okay. Okay, fine. Good. After we've done that, then we'll move into the articles. And first article, Andy will be adopting the rules for the conduct of the meeting. And Mr. Cohn, John Cohn, will be seconding. We will then move to the annual report article. And again, whoops. Yeah, okay, so okay, Article 1 we've dealt with. Then Article 2 will be the real estate tax exemption. Andy again, Mr. Cohn will second. Article 3, town salaries. This will be the first article where we'll be reading salaries from the Blue Book. We'll be asking people to object by stating hold if they have an objection to one of the salary items, and then we'll consider that objection separately. If there are no objections to the article as it's read, in particular to the salaries as read, then it's deemed to have passed. Article 4 will be a similar process. We'll be dealing with line items from the operating budget. Again, Andy, you'll be making a motion that we call over the items in the operating budget. Mr. Cohn will second. Again, if somebody objects or wishes to have further discussion on an item in the operating budget, we'll ask them to state hold. We will then have discussion with respect to that item, and then Andy will make a motion, a separate motion with respect to that particular line item. Article 5, capital budget. Same process. We'll be reading items for the capital budget. We will not be following the order that's in the Blue Book. The motion is phrased a little differently, has a slightly different order than what's in the Blue Book, so I'll be reading those items slowly so that people can follow along in the Blue Book and find the pages. Again, if somebody has an objection or wishes to have further discussion on one of the items in the capital budget, they should say hold, and then we'll go back and have a discussion with respect to those items and have separate motions with respect to the items for which objections were voiced or holds were voiced. Article 6, the unemployment fund. Be appropriating $10,000 for the unemployment fund, and Maureen Arkle, you'll be making this motion. And
you're using an old copy of the script we've revised.
Oh, you did revise it.
Consistent with the Blue Book.
Oh, okay.
Yes, so
Okay.
Article 6 and 7 have been swapped.
Okay, thank you.
Originally, Article 6 was 20, Article 7 was 10, but it was revised.
Oh, we revised it. Okay, all right, thank you.
I have 6 for $20.
It is, so if that's consistent with the
Okay. So this wasn't in the Blue Book, or it was in the Blue Book, but wasn't in the draft?
we were maintaining a list with the amounts of funding.
Mm-hmm.
Originally, Article 6 was 20, it got changed to 10 later on, but we switched it back up.
Change it back to 20. Okay, so Article 6 then will be $20,000 for the unemployment fund. And Mrs. Arkle will be making the motion, and Mr. Lawrence will be seconding. Okay. In Article 7, accumulated sick leave for 10,000. Okay, now that's been changed from 20,000 to 10,000. Okay, so the accumulated sick leave will now be for $10,000, and Mr. Cox will be making a motion, and Mr. Forte will be seconding. Okay. Highway funds. Kathy Gilbody will be making the motion for the highway funds with a second. Okay. By the way, if I'm going too fast and you have any questions or comments? None? Okay. Article 9, revolving fund. This article will involve a list of items that will be in the revolving fund. We will not be calling these out separately. It will be voted on as one motion. And Mr. Forte will be making a motion and Mr. Cox will be seconding. Article 10, the Senior Center, we're going to be asking for a dismissal. Mr. Lawrence will be moving to dismiss, and Mrs. Gilbody will be seconding. Article 11, is anybody from the planning board here tonight? Okay. State statute requires that the planning board report to town meeting if this article is considered within 21 days of the planning board voting on it. So we'll have to alert the planning board, depending on the timing that this was voted on, that they may be called upon to make a brief report to the town meeting. I would prefer that they make a brief report in any event, because I think that since it's a zoning bylaw change, I think it's helpful to the town to hear the rationale for this from them, and they can be available for any questions that might arise. Yes?
I'm the liaison to the planning board.
Okay.
So like I can contact
That would be great. Thank you, Murray. Appreciate it.
So Jim, 2/3 vote on 11.
Right, 2/3 vote on 11. For all zoning changes. And then Article 12, I will be recusing myself from this. David Havlin will be handling this. And David, let me turn it over to you if you want to discuss this article.
Well, what I'm planning on doing is calling on Barbara, have you come up, have the motion seconded, go back to you and allow you to speak to the article. And then it is my understanding that someone, Jim, you would like to speak to this, and Andy, or at least someone from your board would like to?
And that's the order in which it will go. I will speak first and they will speak second.
Yes, because you're speaking in, you're the proponent and the person bringing the article forth, so we go to you first. After that, then we're going back to allow the Selectmen and Warrant Committee to speak to the article. So, Jim, is it you who would like to speak?
Yes.
And Andy, do you know who from the Warrant Committee would like?
We don't. We're going to take up the revised article on Wednesday, so we'll handle that.
Terrific. Just let us know and we'll get it amended. Yes.
Because I understand there are revisions to the article, how does that impact what we're discussing tonight, and when will we get the information? In other words, by the time this gets to town meeting, it will be the revised article that people are voting on.
Yeah, well, Barbara has submitted a revision. We gave that to Town Council. Town Council reviewed it, made suggestions to improve it, gave it back to Barbara. You have approved that. That is what is now in the book.
But it's not what's in the blue book.
No.
No.
That was my question.
Yeah, Elijah, you raise a broader question that might be helpful. Technically, we're not voting on the warrant article. We're technically voting on the motion. And as long as the motion is within the scope of the article, then that's permitted, and the vote pertains to the motion, not to the article. And that's, you know, it's a mistake we all make when we're looking at the blue book. Technically, we are not voting on what's in the blue book. We're voting on the motion that's being made with respect to the article in the blue book.
Thanks for the clarification.
Yeah, it's something that I didn't learn until recently either.
In any event, after that, I'm going to ask the discussion be limited to the bylaw change in the article that you're going to read. And just for time's sake and organization's sake, we don't want to open up to the floor and start having a debate about the necessity of fields or whether or not artificial turf is a good thing or a bad thing. This has to do with the bylaw change. And while I think it's very appropriate if you're going to talk about items that may change the character of the town, like light poles, that is relevant, but not to allow the debate to stray from the actual bylaw change. So I'm going to ask any proponent or opponent to make sure that your comments are directed to the bylaw that is before the town. Yes.
My concern would be that we've made no secret of the fact that we wouldn't be faced with dealing with a bylaw were it not for the C Park proposal that's been floated. Is it legitimate to make reference to the context which gave rise to this article?
Yes, well, let me read to you exactly what I'm going to read at town meeting. Before I open this to the floor, it is important to remind everyone that we're speaking to the merits of a bylaw change. Please refrain from becoming too mired in the specifics of any one project or proposal, real or imagined. This is not a discussion about the need for playing fields, the merits of, or problems with artificial turf, or other similar issues likely to come up if the C Park project moves forward. Rather, this motion is asking whether we should require town meeting approval if something in the nature of the C Park project were to move forward. So with this guidance, is there any further discussion? And I'm willing to bet one or two hands will go up. I'm sorry, yes, we didn't.
Does this require also a 2/3 vote?
This is, we believe it's a majority vote.
This isn't a bylaw change?
It's not a bylaw change?
It is a bylaw change.
It's not a zoning bylaw
Zoning
change.
bylaw.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Can you say that again?
Zoning bylaws were required by statute to be 2/3 votes. General bylaws
This is
only
general.
require majority vote.
So, sorry,
Yes.
excuse me. Hi. Will there be a written copy of this for town residents to follow along with as Barbara reads it?
Yes, I think it might be a great idea if you had handouts at town meeting for people to, you know how they put things on the table before everyone goes in?
So it's my responsibility to have.
I think we can do that.
Can we do that?
We can do that, absolutely.
Terrific.
It's best if we do it.
And will there be written versions of the revised warrant committee's recommendation? Because that they will not have had a chance to see either.
And you do.
Yeah, we're taking that up in this stage, so.
Yeah. Well, no, it's because the regional schools.
So we'll get it.
That would be terrific, just so the town can see what your committee's opinion is. So any other questions on 12? I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, thank you, David. Article 13 is the air conditioning for the middle school, and Mrs. Gerner will be making the motion, and Mrs. Gilbody will be seconding. This is a majority vote, even though it's a borrowing. The 2/3 vote is at the regional school committee, and then the town meeting vote will be a majority vote. And this is one of the articles that I suspect there'll be a lot to be said, and we would like to again confine the comments to the desirability of spending $853,000 on air conditioning in the middle school, and not about the need for other school facilities or to tear it down and build a new building. Just focus on the need for expending this money for the air conditioning. Article 14 is, yeah, sure. Yep.
So I'm, Brooks and I are the liaison to the regional school committee, so we will pass that along to them.
Okay, right.
If, I expect they may want to have some slides or some presentation ready.
That would be, yeah.
So when, I want to ask her, when do the slides need to make it? What's the date for getting any presentation material to you? You mentioned,
3 days before.
yeah, 3 days prior.
3 days prior.
Okay, thank you.
That makes it Friday of the next week.
Okay.
Thursday, possible. Thursday would be better if possible, just because of Thursday, like Friday, Monday. Yeah.
So,
The sooner the better.
no longer, no later than a week from today. That would be next Thursday, right?
Yeah.
And that, right? Okay. Thank you.
Hey, Jim?
Depending on the tone of Article 13, how it moves forward to the meeting, Carol may want to say something, so if we can.
Sure.
Carol.
Right. Okay, very good. Okay, Carol, would you want to immediately follow the school committee's presentation?
No, I'm going to want to say remarks depending on the tone of the
Okay.
questions that come in.
Okay, fine, thanks. Yeah, it's very helpful for me to hear that people on the stage with me will want to speak, because since I'm at the podium looking out, it's very hard for me to see people on my side, left side or right side, who might want to speak. So that's why, thank you very much, I appreciate it. If anybody else wants to volunteer to speak during some of these other articles that are coming up, please let me know if you're going to be on the stage so I can remember to turn to look to you. Okay?
Park and Rec, excuse me one second, is Park and Rec planning on speaking?
No.
Okay. To Article 12, I'm sorry. On 12, I'm going back.
On 12, yes.
Okay. Do you know who?
No. I do not know who.
If you can get that, because I would like to keep it flowing, and so, and just make sure that everyone has heard from.
Okay, which Oasis?
Okay.
99% sure.
Okay, Article 14 was the free cash version of the borrowing for the air conditioning, and that will be dismissed. There'll be a motion to dismiss. Elizabeth Gurnett, and a second by Kathy Gilbody. Any further? I assume we won't need any discussion from the school committee on that. Okay, fine. Article 15 is borrowing of $122,000 by the Dover-Sherburne Regional School Committee. And Bill, I'm assuming that this will be the same, that even though it's a 2/3 vote at the committee level, it will be a majority vote at the town meeting. Is that correct? Correct. Okay. Okay, so this will be a majority vote. Again, Mrs. Gilbody will make the motion, and Mrs. Gurnett will second. Now, this is, there are several items here, and we're not going, the motion doesn't call for me to call over the items. Has there been any discussion at the regional school committee about objections to any of these items in particular? Kathy, do you know?
No.
Because if there is, and somebody wants to make a motion, again, it would be very helpful to us if they provide it in writing if they have a problem with one of these items.
Well, the regional school committee feels that these are the most highest priorities out of a much larger list of items that need to be addressed.
Okay.
They would not, I don't think, be preparing a plan to have any of them pulled out or modified in any way. Is that what you're asking?
Right,
yeah.
Right, okay.
So there has not been a conversation about that. They feel like this is the highest, little tip of the list of priorities that they feel comfortable bringing forward this year, given that they have a request for the air conditioning on the docket at the same time.
And they will be making a presentation with respect to this as well?
We can communicate that.
Okay.
I think it will be
Very brief, I think it would be helpful, particularly if they view this as being a package that's necessary. That would be very helpful, I think, to the voters.
So when I read this, I read the whole thing all the way down to there too?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Article 16. We're going to be dismissing this. Mrs. Gilbody and Mrs. Gurnett, again, it's a Dover-Sherburne Regional School Committee item. So on to Article 17. Another easy one, the rail trail.
Greg Hills will be making that presentation.
Okay, very good. And he did an excellent job at the warrant committee hearing. If he's, again, greatly appreciated, kept it under 10 minutes, so that would be great. Again, this is going to be a difficult motion to consider in light of what's relevant and not. And the question is whether we should be appropriating $50,000 to study the feasibility of the rail trail. And I would like to keep the comments tailored to that question. Questions about whether Cinder may pollute the trail or not pollute the trail, I don't think is relevant, frankly, to this question. Instead, I think it really goes to the basic issue of, are people willing to expend another $50,000 to continue studying this or not? And I'm hoping that we'll be able to confine the comments to that issue. I expect that people will stray. We'll try to lead the conversation back to the feasibility. This is one that could also take a lot of time, and if we're trying to meet in one meeting, it would be really helpful if people just focus on what the vote is. The vote is not up or down on the rail trail, it is on the study, continuing study. So that would be very helpful if people are able to address that issue. After the motion is made, Mr. Hill will make the presentation on behalf of the motion. Would the Board of Selectmen like to be heard on this as well at that point, or Andy with the, okay, fine. Now, if it turns out that you do want to make comments, give me a big wave to catch my peripheral vision.
M&Ms in.
That would be great. Yeah, throw the M&Ms at me. Thank you.
Are you gonna switch it up this year? Is still M&Ms?
Yep.
Okay.
Just don't hit my head. It's too thick. Okay. Okay. Article 18, medical marijuana treatment center. Mr. Lawrence will make the motion, and see, Mr. Stewart will be seconding, and there he is. And this is a 2/3 vote, since it's an amendment to the zoning bylaw. Maureen, I would like the selectmen, again, to make a very brief presentation on this if possible. It can be very short.
I'm sorry.
I would like the planning board to make, I'm sorry, I misspoke, the planning board to make a brief presentation on this if possible.
On the medical marijuana?
Right.
They're not prepared to do that.
They're not prepared to do that, okay.
Selectmen article, not
Okay,
planning board.
even though it's a zoning bylaw change.
Yeah.
I think that, well, it depends on whether we've run, the 21 days has elapsed. Because I think, Bill, correct me if I'm wrong,
They haven't even voted on this,
they haven't voted on it.
No, never take it out, no.
have they?
No, but I think there is a meeting scheduled prior to town meeting on both of these articles.
Next Monday.
And I think they will be prepared with a vote at least.
Okay, I think that, since they'll just be voting on this now, I think we're going to need some kind of report from them, unless it turn,
That could be oral.
yeah, it can be oral, verbal, but I think the zoning statute, the enabling statute, requires that they make a report to town meeting. So I will have to call on them, and it can be very brief. And I think, given that this is really just a moratorium, I don't think it requires an extended discussion. I think that simply pointing out that we're using this in order to buy time to wait to see what the state does and to have time to study ourselves is really all that we have to say with respect to this article. I don't think we have to get into the merits of marijuana usage or treatment centers or not having treatment centers. That debate will come at a later date. Yeah, and Jim?
No, I was just gonna, so, have we said planning board's gonna say that, or do you want the selectmen to say that?
Well, the planning board can be very brief. It can even be 30 seconds, just saying we consider this and we recommend that it be adopted by town meeting. And then if you like, you could,
No, if that,
Well, once you talk to the planning board, and I'll talk to the planning board.
So the prob-
Make some remarks,
Okay.
very short remarks.
Right.
The planning board can make them, they're probably gonna do the same, so.
okay.
If you explain what Jim just explained to the meeting, that it's to buy time, 100 words will do
Which
it.
is what the blue book.
Right.
is supposed to.
Right, right. Because I'm a little nervous that if we don't comply with the statute on this, that the vote will be declared invalid. So that's why I think it really is important that the planning board be prepared to make a very brief
I
comment.
believe they intend to, the planner said that they
Okay.
report on the two
Okay, good,
articles they're holding hearings on, so.
Good.
I'll try to make it to the meetings.
right, okay, good, thank you. Just trying to anticipate, this might be controversial, I'm just trying to anticipate any challenges that might arise. Okay, reserve fund, for $250,000 appropriation to the reserve fund. Mr. Stewart will make the motion, Mr. Lawrence will second. Okay, do you think any further, will this be an extensive discussion, do you think, Andy? Okay, yeah, good, good, yeah, we're getting into the 20s now, so, Right. Okay. Unpaid bills, there'll be a motion to dismiss. I assume that hasn't changed. Mrs. Gurner will be making a motion to dismiss.
We're good.
You paid them all?
Supplemental appropriation, warrant committee. Again, there'll be a motion to dismiss from Mr. Forte, with a second from Mr. Cohn. Free cash. Do we have a sum yet for free cash for Article 22?
We have a number, yes.
It hasn't changed.
It hasn't changed, and it's only, it will not change unless something happens.
Okay, very good. Okay, great.
Do you have the number as of right now?
You guys should write down, what's the starting number?
Right.
I'm trying to find it.
1,600,000. It's in here.
We have it.
I'll have it soon.
1647973.
1647973.
Right.
Okay.
Original.
Okay, very good, thank you. Article 23, Town Stabilization Fund, also will be moved to dismiss. And then if we have been able to accomplish this, hopefully by 11 or so, we'll have a motion to dissolve. If not, we'll have a motion to adjourn until the following day, Tuesday. But I really can't stress enough how important it is that we all be concise and brief so that we don't have to go a second day. And again, thank you very much. Thank the Board of Selectmen. And Barry?
Do you want to state the policy on politicking?
Oh, yes, thank you. We've had questions about to what extent proponents or opponents of various motions can engage in, what kind of activities they can engage in at the high school. And after talking to town council about this, we feel it very important that we make reasonable accommodations, and we will allow people to stand outside the building to hand out literature. Please, it goes without, I don't have to say this with the people present, but people who aren't present, very important that we all be polite. We can disagree without being disagreeable. And that's very important in terms of our interaction before the town meeting and during the town meeting. And if it turns out that the weather is inclement, we'll try to make arrangements inside for you to be able to distribute literature inside. The inside arrangements may be difficult. I'm anticipating that we will have a spillover into the cafeteria, so we'll have to probably take that into account when we're trying to make arrangements, so I hope it doesn't rain. Okay, anything else? Any other items? Okay, can I have a motion to dissolve this moderator? Okay, second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously. Thank you very much and have a good night.
Thank you.